Welcome back to Ballistic Truth. Future Leland here. We're reshooting the intro because there's just some days that you should not be on camera. Build series. I don't know what I'm going to be wearing to every single rifle cuff, but it is going to look different and it will be a different color because. And I don't want to look ridiculous with a flat dark earth rifle wearing woodland camo. So we're here for another episode of our Stray Cat Armory build series, and in just a few seconds, we are going to build this little rascal right here. So everybody knows our number one rule of gun building: if you build it, you get to name it. And this one's name is number 2, because I couldn't think of anything cool or fun, and nothing was quite good enough for my number 2. And then we went through the video process. And then it's our second episode, so everything's labeled number 2 pictures, number 2 footage, number 2 parts, number 2, and it just stuck. Now I can never know this gun as anything other than number 2, which is ironic because this is my favorite gun I've ever built, hands down. There are some guns you pick up and just shoot better than others. And I didn't do anything different. I built all my guns the same way. I didn't do anything special. The only thing I can think of is sometimes, every once in a while, all those little parts that you ordered come together in a way that can't be seen or measured, almost as if it's their destiny, and they form this kind of accidental perfection, I think. I don't know. It's a very unfortunate name, though. I kind of like it, I guess. It implies humility. It's a virtuous gun. Maybe next episode we'll build something even better, and then his name will be perfect. All right, let's get started. According to our analytics, 71% of you are pooping right now, so we don't have a lot of time. All right, let's get a close-up of some of the parts we're working with. Swish and flick. We showed a lot of the pre-checks and gauging in other videos. We won't focus too much on that in this one. We did run into a couple issues, so we'll show that and what we did to rectify it. One of the first things I check is how the upper and lower receivers fit together, and it's not great. We do have some wobble. Now there is a spec for that, and it's well within the limits, but it just annoys the crap out of me. We're always trying to build the perfect rifle and stay within a certain standard, and wobbly receivers just aren't part of that. So we're going to take care of it. First, we need to determine where the wobble is coming from. Is something out of spec, or is it just tolerance stacking and we have two parts that don't want to play nice together? And it looks like the ears on the upper receiver are a little on the thin side. So there's a couple things we could do about it. We could try a different upper, but not everyone has extra uppers laying around or can afford to keep trying them until one fits. There are products out there like the AccuEdge. I'm not a huge fan of these products for a couple reasons, but mostly stuffing something between the receivers is a little bit of a sugar packet under the table leg kind of fix for me, and I'm looking for a more permanent solution. So especially on a gun I'm going to Cerakote anyway, I like to use receiver shims. These are tack shims. You can get them from Amazon or Brownells. They come in different thicknesses. So I just try different shims in different places and see what feels the best. Once I figure that out, I'll cold weld them onto the upper, trim them up, blend them a little bit, and then Cerakote over them. And I'm definitely not saying that this is the best way to do it or the quickest or the easiest. It's not. In fact, it's probably the most labor-intensive way you could go about it. But it works, and it looks nice, and while nothing like this is truly permanent, if done properly, it's pretty darn permanent. It's as close to permanent as you can get without getting a different receiver. So this one took a 4/1000 shim on the rear ear. That's what felt the best. And we are dealing in thousandths of an inch, so we want to leave it a little bit loose. The cold weld epoxy tends to add 1 to 2 thousandths, and then the Cerakote adds a thousandth. So if we get it perfect at this stage, when we're all done with it, it'll be a little bit too thick and difficult to close. I do like to err on the thicker side because after the epoxy's cured and before we Cerakote it, we can sand it down and kind of fine tune it to get it right where we want it. So there's a few things you could probably use for this. JB Weld is my favorite. It's got one of the highest bond strengths. It has the highest temperature rating. It works well with aluminum, and it is robust. Once that's cured, you can sand it, you can drill it, tap it, put a bolt in it. It is designed to repair engines, so it's more than sufficient for something like this. A couple things we need to do is make sure the surface area is very clean. Use a degreasing solvent like brake clean or acetone. We want to scruff it up really good with a coarse sandpaper or file to give the epoxy something to really grab onto, and then just make sure we mix it thoroughly. So once we apply the epoxy, we just pop our shim on there and give it a little bit of a smush. I keep a Q-tip soaked in acetone just to clean up the excess epoxy. And then I'll use one of the pins just to make sure it's centered. I'll throw it in there, wiggle it around, run it around the edges, just to make sure that shim is not going to obstruct the hole in any way. And then I will clamp it until it cures. So now that it's cured, I'm just trimming it up a little bit. So we got a round shim on a square-ish receiver ear. So I'm really just knocking the edges off. One, it looks nicer when it's done, and two, there's no overhanging edges that can get hung up on something. So it was still just a hair on the thick side, so I'm just sanding it back down. I just sand and fit until I get it where I want it. The sanding also has the added benefit of blending the edges in a little bit. So we're almost there, still just a little bit tight. So here it is all trimmed and blended and ready for the next stage. So we've fast forwarded a little bit. We're coming out of the sandblaster, which the sandblasting has nothing to do with the receiver shims. We're just prepping the upper for Cerakote. But it's a nice test too, because if the shim doesn't come off in the sandblasting, then I know I've done a pretty good job and it's probably never coming off. And here's what it looks like when it's all done. So the other issue we ran into was look how little of that buffer retaining pin is being captured by the buffer tube. So that is in grave danger of being shot out. Also, the carrier travel depth is kind of right on the edge of being okay. So I would like to screw that buffer tube in one more turn. Problem is when I do that, the buffer tube smashes into the nipple of the buffer retaining pin. So what I would like to do is try and notch that out and give it some relief. So the buffer retaining pin was kind enough to leave me a perfect witness mark, so I know exactly where I need to make this notch. All right, so now we have our notch cut. The pin moves freely, and now we're capturing the maximum amount of buffer retaining pin, and it also brings our gas key to lower receiver gap a little bit further into the safe zone. So this is a 14.5 mid-length barrel. The mil-spec gas hole size is 0.76, and this took an 0.78 pin, so 2 thousandths oversized. Not really a big deal. This was done intentionally by the manufacturer, so you wouldn't have problems cycling weaker powered ammunition. Mil-spec gas holes are the way they are because they only shoot full-power NATO rounds. In the civilian world, we could be shooting anything. Whatever's on sale, that's what I shoot. So we're putting a rifle speed gas block on this build anyway, so it's really not an issue. It's very easy to trim gas off. It's very difficult to add gas. So having that little bit of extra gas at our fingertips when we want it for extra reliability or cycling weak powered ammunition, I think is a plus. So this is my view when I sandblast. The camera's making it a little worse, but not much. The next thing I upgrade is going to be my sandblaster. This is literally the cheapest one I could find on Amazon. Also, I'm going to get a spray gun stand so I don't have to do this awkward squat and pour move every time I fill it. So we're going to do the receivers and the buffer tube in mil-spec OD green, and then the handguard and armor black with a green pattern on there that will match the receivers. And then all the small parts and bits and bobs will also be done in armor black. So I think it'll look good. This gun was just begging me to be green. And hopefully it turns out kind of how I was seeing it in my head. If not, we can always just redo it. So there's a small window if you want to do a second color of Cerakote. Obviously it can't be wet, but it can't be fully cured either, because Cerakote will not stick to fully cured Cerakote. So what you have to do is tack it out, as they say. You got to throw it in the oven. It's usually about 15 minutes, depending on what it is. But you're putting it in the oven until the tack is gone. The Cerakote is no longer tacky. At that point, you can pull it out and you can handle it and touch it without putting fingerprints and smudges on there, but it will also accept another color of Cerakote because it's not fully cured yet. And here we are mixing up the black that we just sprayed and is in the oven currently, so great job in the editing. So maybe it was just the lights or the camera angle or something, but watching this, it looks like I had my gun set way too high, but thanks to my possum-like reflexes, we managed to get a good coat of Cerakote with no runs on it. So I'm not using any stencils here. I'm just dialing the gun down and then freehanding it. The look I'm going for is kind of like the battlefield wartime spray paint jobs, except a little bit cleaner and with Cerakote. The green will match the receivers, and then the black showing will match everything else. So this should tie the whole gun together aesthetically, I think. This is just what I kept seeing in my head for this gun, so we're going to give it a try. And if it doesn't work, we'll just figure something else out. All right, final assembly. Here we go.
switch is gassing.
Yeah.
All the way that way, right? Yeah. Middle is super good.
Noise.
That